Donald Trump had a public meltdown after a New York judge ordered that Trump would be sentenced for his 34 felony convictions on January 10th, 10 days before he becomes president of the United States. And it was glorious, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we got a clip to look at here and several things to read. And I actually want to dive into the particulars of what's going on before we get to Donald Trump's very juicy, very funny reaction. We're going to start with this clip from ABC News describing really the potential sentence that Trump faces, because unfortunately for those of us who were hoping that Trump at some point would be sentenced to jail time, that's really not in the cards. So we're going to play this clip, read an Axios report about the situation, and then get to Donald Trump's reaction.
Aaron, what does this sentence actually mean for Trump?
It's really a mark on his record, Phil. The judge said he wanted to balance the duties of president with the sanctity of the jury's verdict. So while Trump would face no real punishment for falsifying business records here in New York, the stain of that criminal conviction would remain.
No surprise here, but Trump's legal team has already indicated they plan to ask an appellate court to stop this sentencing. What's the argument?
That could come as soon as Monday, Phil. I expect that the former president's legal team is going to say that Trump cannot be expected to be sentenced while he's about to take office, that it would create undue burdens as he's about to become the leader of the country. We'll see what the appellate court does. But Judge Merchan did say if that happens, if the January 10th sentencing is delayed, well, then he would hold this case in abeyance, meaning a sentencing would be awaiting Trump after he leaves office in 4 years, Phil.
So one way or another. All right.
So now you can see why Donald Trump is pissed. Again, we'll go into details. He's not likely to face jail time. The judge indicated that he's not inclined to do so. But if Trump tries to go and get the sentencing overturned, saying, listen, I'm about to be president, you can't sentence me to anything, then Merchan says, I'll just wait. I'll just bide my time. I will run out the clock. And again, we'll get to Trump's reaction. But here's an Axios article describing the situation. Trump to be sentenced before Inauguration Day, but faces no jail time. The New York judge overseeing Trump's hush money case upheld the historic criminal conviction and scheduled sentencing for January 10th, court documents show. That's just 10 days before Inauguration Day, though Judge Juan Merchan indicated in his written decision that Trump won't face jail time. Trump was convicted on all 34 felony counts for falsifying company records, making him the first convicted felon to be elected president. Yay, America. Woo, finally breaking, yet another, innovative trend, rather. We are innovators in this regard. Prosecutors had asked Merchan to place the case on indefinite hold, but the judge said sentencing, quote, is, quote, the most viable solution to ensure finality and to allow Trump to pursue an appeal. However, Merchan wrote he's not inclined to impose jail time, even though the conviction would allow it, because prosecutors, quote, concede they no longer view it as a practical recommendation given Trump's reelection. Trump has the option to attend the sentencing in person or virtually. Merchan also said that the Supreme Court's ruling that presidents have immunity for prosecution for, quote, official acts, end quote, doesn't apply to the president-elect. Quote, accordingly, a president-elect is not permitted to avail himself of the protections afforded to the individual occupying that office, Merchan wrote. Trump's spokesperson, Stephen Chung, said in a statement that Friday's order, quote, is a direct violation of the Supreme Court's immunity decision and other long-standing jurisprudence. He added that the case should be dismissed and there should be no sentencing. Quote, Trump must be allowed to continue presidential transition processes and to execute the vital duties of the presidency unobstructed by the remains of this or any remnants of the witch hunt. Now, again, as disastrous as Trump v. United States was, that was the name of the Supreme Court decision that afforded the president of the United States sweeping, unnecessary, anti-American, unpatriotic, unconstitutional, in my opinion, in that it's not written anywhere that the president is afforded immunity. As a matter of fact, the founders did permit immunity in the Constitution. They actually wrote an immunity clause in the Constitution, the speech and debate clause for members of Congress, not the executive. So they knew how an immunity worked, and they chose not to give one to the president. So again, miss me with this conservative, we really believe in just reading the words of the Constitution, textualism, originalism. They're full of shit. It's all about arriving at a particular outcome. They will lean on originalism and textualism if it gets them their preferred outcome. But if doing so would get them the outcome opposite of what they want, they'll just invent entire passages in invisible ink in the Constitution. I digress. But as disastrous as that was, Stephen Chung doesn't make the case that Donald Trump, in his personal capacity of falsifying business records, which is again a felony for which he was convicted on 34 counts, how that would be applicable for presidential immunity. Because even the Supreme Court says, well, it's about official acts. Now, you would have to give that the most outrageously, outlandishly liberal interpretation of official acts if official acts constitute, hush money payments and falsification of business records to conceal your politically inconvenient affair with a porn star before the election. I don't see any good faith interpretation of it, but quite frankly, there's very little in that decision which relies on good faith, I suppose, in the first place. Like, Trump's attorneys also argued that staging a coup or ordering the assassination of your political opponents could be considered an official act. So who the hell knows, right? But again, ridiculous. Trump was pissed. Okay, so, here's a long screed on Truth Social. I never falsified business records. It is a fake, made-up charge by a corrupt judge who is just doing the work of the Biden-Harris Injustice Department, an attack on their political opponent, me. He created a case where there was none, keeps a gag order on me so that I can't talk about how crooked he is. The fake news knows all about it, but they refuse to talk. He may be the most conflicted judge in New York State history. The accountant testified with total corroboration that the records were perfect and totally above board. A legal expense was called on the books a legal expense. There was nothing else it could have been called. This was the so-called falsifying of records. I was hiding nothing. Everything was out in the open for all to see. Every legal scholar of note said there is no case against me. That's not true. But again, most of what he said above is not true either. Don't know why I even said that. It's Donald Trump, a pathological liar par excellence, a man who'd lied a documented 30,000 times during his 4 years in office. And again, the Republicans don't care. So, the judge should be disbarred. This is why people and companies are fleeing New York, a corrupt court system. In another crooked New York case, another corrupt judge overturned 5 times on my case alone, and the most overturned judge in New York valued Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida at $18 million, when it is worth 50 to 100 times that amount. And then we have, also in New York, the woman I never met, celebrity photo lines from 30 years ago don't count, who was awarded almost $100 million. A totally out of control, Trump-hating judge presided. The Biden-Harris DOJ was involved directly or indirectly in each of these cases. I won against deranged Jack Smith. And you sound deranged. Donald, you sound deranged. And again, no evidence whatsoever that the Biden-Harris Justice Department was involved in any of these cases. But that's MAGA for you. They can just do whatever they want. They can just say whatever they want with impunity. So I understand why, even though there is no meaningful prospect of jail time, why Trump would fear sentencing. But I love the fact that Judge Merchan is saying that if you successfully appeal this, if you basically say that, successfully persuade an appellate court that you can't be sentenced at this time because you're about to become president, then so be it. I'll just wait. I'll bide my time, and a sentence will be waiting for you after you leave office. Now, should Donald Trump go to jail? Well, I'm not an attorney, but the convictions allow for it. The convictions permit it. And I do think it's somewhat disappointing that Judge Merchan wants to sentence Trump now, even though he clearly has the right to do so, and then appeals to that time frame to say, well, because I'm choosing to sentence him now, I can't sentence him to jail because he's about to become president. I would much rather Merchan say, you know what? Tell you what, Donald, I don't want you to have to worry about the next 4 years. You're going to be president, you and co-president Elon Musk. So we'll wait and just leave him hanging in suspense for the next 4 years and don't take jail off the table. That's what I would have preferred. But here we are. On January 10th, Donald Trump will be sentenced. If he appeals it successfully between now and then, the sentencing will wait for him after he leaves office. He's clearly very upset about it. And I think that's great. Again, small victories, silver linings as we head into these dark and turbulent times under a second Trump administration. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.